Hello everyone, this is a welding class. In our today's welding class, we are going to discussing about the gas tungsten arc welding or GTAW process and its application. When we say this, there are different arc welding process we are using in our processes, but depending on their advantage and disadvantage, and also depending on their application areas, it's important to select the best welding process which is suitable for our project or product we are going to do. So this is in this class, it's important to discuss about the gas tungsten arc welding process and its application. So this welding process, it's a types of welding process, it's a types of arc welding process. As you see from this figure, this indicates the all parts of gas tungsten arc welding process, or as we know, this gas tungsten arc welding process is abbreviated as GTAW or GTAW. So in this figure shows the full circuit of gas tungsten arc welding process or GTAW circuit, and so it shows all parts of gas tungsten arc welding. As you see from this is the external shielding gas. It shows the gas tanker, or this is only the inert gas. So this may be, when you say inert gas, this is the gas used for the gas tungsten arc welding is argon or helium, and also argon-helium mixture. So this gas is used for what? For shielding the welding areas from air contamination, or in air, as we know, there is oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, which is the enemy of welding. That means that can simply attack the welding, or reduces the quality of the welding. So this is, as you see from this, it is the gas tanker or inert gas tanker that used for what? For the shielding the welding area. And also there is the gun inlet, the gas inlet. Here is, this is the gas inlet. This means that from this through this line, the gas is supplied to the welding area through the also torch. So this torch is, by the way, as you see from these torches, it includes this all. This is it's not, it does not mean that this area, this means there are, we can detail discuss in the torch parts, but this is it's a parts we call the torch. And so here there is also gas out. This gas outlet, that may be the line by which the gas is going to shield the welding area. So here there is the workpiece, and here there is a ground cable. This means we can call, in some case we can call it is the work cable or ground cable or hearth cable in other cases. So this shows, it's what it is, the total of what? The total of gas tungsten arc welding process. So this is the parts of the gas tungsten arc welding process. So here, and gas tungsten arc welding, as we already discussed in the figure above. So there is the torch. So this indicates the gas tungsten arc welding torches. So here it is the handle of the gas tungsten arc welding torch. Here this is the handle, and also here there is a electrode. This is tungsten electrode, or we call the non-consumable electrode, and this is also the cap, which is used to secure at the back of the torch. So totally we call this is the parts of the gas tungsten arc welding, we call it the torch. But here the concept is to explain the electrode extension. So this means the electrode extension is there to explain what the electrode extends through what or the electrode extends beyond the nozzle. So this shows the gas tungsten arc welding electrode extension must be kept as short as possible. It must be kept as short as possible because of what? By the way, the length of the electrode extension is it must be depending on the different considerations. There is the accessibility. The important point to determine the electrode extension is the accessibility of the joint area. This means especially because of the size of this nozzle, the nozzle, as you see, this is a nozzle. This area is the nozzle. So the size of the nozzle is maybe high or low or the average. It is designed depending on the joint design. This also, the nozzle size is also depending on the joint design. So sometimes it hinders to access the joint area, especially in the internal corner welding. In the internal corner welding, it's important to consider the accessibility. So it must be the desired extension is important by considering the accessibility. So let us detail this case about what is GTAW. So this is abbreviated from the American Welding Societies. As you see, it indicates gas tungsten arc welding process, or in some cases shortly we call as it is a GTAW or GTAW. This means gas tungsten arc welding processes. So gas tungsten arc welding process is a very precise arc welding process, often used to weld complex materials. So this welding process can weld every types of metals, but because of its complexity, because of its cost of the process, it is important to use in complex materials. So gas tungsten arc welding process uses a non-consumable tungsten electrode to establish the arc as illustrated in the figure below, in figure 1. So this electrode is non-consumable because it does not melt or transfer to the weld. So as we know, in gas arc welding process or in shielded metal arc welding process, the electrodes are melted and transferred to the welding or to the joint area. But here, in this case, the electrode we are using in gas tungsten arc welding is non-consumable. This means it does not mean that as not consumable forever, but this means it does not melt and then transfer to the joint area. So this means it needs another filler materials or filler rod which is applied to in the side. So tungsten is a good electrode material because it has a high melting point of all metals, and it is an excellent conductor. It's an excellent conductor. This means it can simply conduct the electricity to the arc. So it is from its property, it has excellent conductivity property, and also it is the highest melting point. This means the heat we are using for melting the metal during welding process does not melt the electrode. So gas tungsten arc welding also uses an inert gas. There's an inert external shielding gas to protect the tungsten electrode. and molten metal from contamination. So this means in arc welding process, always it's important to shield the electrode tip, the molten metal, and also heat affected zone, as well as the arc from the air contamination, because in the air there are different gases that can simply affect the welding, our welding quality. For this reason, gas tungsten arc welding is often known as TIG welding or tungsten inert gas welding. This means in this welding process, the gas is always inert gas. The inert gas, especially argon and helium, is the inert gas, which are the most shielding gas in gas tungsten arc welding. So sometimes it is as a nickname, we call it as TIG or GTAW or TIG welding process. The gas tungsten arc welding can be performed with or without filler metal. This means the filler metal is depending on the material to be welded and thickness and the welding and the joint design. In some cases, it's important to use the filler material or the filler rod from the separated filler rod is supplied from the side, and so once the weld paddle begins to form, this means we can apply the filler rod after we form the welding paddle. So the need for filler metal is depending on the shape and size of the joint, as well as the types of the material to be welded. However, always keep in your mind that the filler metal must never touch the electrode, because it can contaminate the tungsten electrode. And as you see from this figure shows the arc formation and the tungsten arc welding process. So here there is the arc. This is the arc. The arc is formed between the base metal and tips of the electrode. As you see here is this is also the filler material. As we already discussed, the gas tungsten arc welding is performed with or without using the filler rod. Thus, this application of filler rod is depending on the material to be welded and the design of the joint. So, as you see from this figure, there is the welding bit. Here, this is the welding or solidified welding bit, and also this shielding gas is shielding the welding areas. So it can use for shield the tips of the electrode, the arc, the molten metal, and also the heat affected zone of the base metal. So simply the gas is supplied from the gas tanker through the torch, the welding torch, and so it can shield what? It can protect this all welding environment from the air contamination. So this figure shows the arc formation and the gas tungsten arc welding process. So as you see from this figure, it's important to know how to handle or how to hold the torches. It's important to hold like the as you see from this figure, this guy hold the torch like a pencil, and then applied the external material or filler rod or filling material by his hand, other hands, and by other hands it holds the torches. So it shows how we can perform the gas tungsten arc welding process. So gas tungsten arc welding process can be manual, semi-automatic, and fully automatic processes. So as you know, when you say the manual This means every parameters can be controlled by the welder, and in semi-automatic welding process, some parts, especially torch, can be held by some material, some automatic holding materials, and there are also fully automated gas tungsten arc welding processes, which is already programmed by the computer programming. So as you see here in this presentation, in manual process, the welder controls every part of the process. The process manipulates the welding torch and adds filler material as it's needed. In semi-automatic welding process, the welding torch may be mounted on a special holder. That means there is the holder which is used for manipulating the torches. In automatic welding process, all of the welding variables are programmed into welding machine. This means there is a control unit that controls used to control every welding variable. That may be, when say welding variable, that may be voltage, amperage, the torch manipulation, arc length, and so this all can be controlled by the machine itself. So this is in the fully automatic gas tungsten arc welding process. So in our class, it's important to discuss daily about the characteristics of manual tungsten arc welding process and its application. So in this class, the important point is the selecting of the processes from every arc welding processes. Depending on what we can select the gas tungsten arc welding. So it's important to understand what are the advantages and disadvantages of gas tungsten arc welding process. So why we select? Because there are different parameters, different variables, different problems to select, or when you compare the process with other processes. So we must be detailedly understand what are the advantages and disadvantages of the arc welding process, how we can compare one arc welding process to another arc welding process. It's important to understand the advantage and disadvantages of arc welding process. So in this topic, it's important to discuss what are the advantages and disadvantages of gas tungsten arc welding process. The main advantage of gas tungsten arc welding process is that high quality welds can be made with almost all weldable metals. It can weld all types of metal, all weldable metals, even the materials which are difficult for welding or to weld with other welding processes. So simply, one advantage of gas tungsten arc welding when you are selecting this welding process, it is a quality welding. It can produce the quality welds, or it can join any types of metals with a quality products. So one reason is that why it can produce this quality welding is the inert gas that surrounding the arc in the welding area protects the molten metals. It can completely, the inert gas can completely shield the welding area. This is the one reason why this process can produce the quality welding or the quality joints. Also, the gas tungsten arc welding process provides the best control of the weld pull of all arc welding process. This is because gas tungsten arc welding process produces an intense, highly concentrated, intense, highly concentrated, which provides more heat control for the for hard to weld metals and thin metals. So as you hear, the main important point here is it can produce the intense arc, highly concentrated arc. So this is highly concentrated arc, means it can simply control the heat to the weld, to the joint area. So this means it is a highly precise welding process. So simply we call it as it can produce high quality welding. So gas tungsten arc welding, that it is a very clean welding. No sputter, no smoke, no slag on the welding beam. So this means it's a clean welding process. This makes the weld area highly visible. When it is highly visible, we can simply control the welding paddle to the welding to the joint area, which also results in a better control of the welding pool. If it is clean, there is no material that hinders the welding area to be visible. No smoke, no sputtering, no slag. Because of this, it's shielded by the inert gas welding, inert gases. So we can call it the clean welding process. Clear. So simply we can observe and control the welding pool. So finally, the gas tungsten arc welding process, filler material can be added independently of the electrode, because the gas tungsten arc welding electrode is a non-consumable electrode. It does not melt and then it does not transfer to the joint area, because in some cases, or depending on the material to be welded, the joint design, it needs another filler material, another filler rod to be supplied from the side. So as you see from this, gas tungsten arc welding is often used to weld thin metals like aluminum. Especially this is ideally the welding process which are using in aluminum welding. So like any other arc welding process, there is also disadvantage in the when we are using gas tungsten arc welding process. So what are the main disadvantages of gas tungsten arc welding? It's important to understand the disadvantage also. So the main disadvantage of gas tungsten arc welding is that it produces the slowest deposition rate, of the all welding process. When it compared with other welding process, the deposition rate is slow. So this means it is also the slowest welding speed. So this is one disadvantage of gas tungsten arc welding process. So this is because gas tungsten arc welding is a process. It is a precise process used to weld complex materials. This is ideally selected for only non-ferrous materials and their alloys, and also the complex material, to weld the complex materials. So we can weld steels, ferrous metals with other arc welding process like gas metal arc welding process, and also we can use shielded metal arc welding process or manual metal arc welding process. So this is restricted to weld the complex materials and also the materials like aluminum. So another drawback when we are using this gas tungsten arc welding is it's a complexity of the equipment, because there are different parts, different equipment are used in this case, like inert gas tanks. This means the cylinder, which is also the inert gas. The inert gas also, when compared with other gases, it is a costly types of gas, and also it needs highly skilled manpower. During for the process, it needs highly skilled manpower. So this is about gas tungsten arc welding process. The another point we are going to discuss is metal welded with gas tungsten arc welding process. What are the metals? So this means why you select gas tungsten arc welding process. What's important to use? Where to use gas tungsten arc welding process? So for this reason, the main important reason we selecting to use this process is what? As a material to the materials to be welded. So gas tungsten arc welding can be used to weld almost all metals and alloys. It can weld all types of metals and alloys. But don't forget that when we use this, why you select this process? What's the cost, advantage, disadvantage? Gas tungsten arc welding process is specially used for welding reactive metals and some non-ferrous alloys. This is the main important application area, because this process is, as we already discussed, it's a costly process, but there are the materials which are difficult to weld by using other arc welding process, like reactive metals. It is difficult to weld reactive metals by using other welding process, and also some non-ferrous alloys are not simply welded by using other welding process. So our concentration to use this welding process is around this area. So what are the reactive metals? So when we say the reactive metals, especially the commercial in the commercial application, including titanium. Titanium is the most reactive metal, and also nickel alloys, magnesiums. These are this not only this, not limited to this, but these are the most reactive metals. Most reactive metals like magnesium, titanium, and nickel alloy. These are the most commercial reactive metals. So the gas tungsten arc welding process can weld simply these types of metals. So these metals require high quality welds. They need high quality welders, because a little amounts of foreign materials entering in the molten metal can affect the quality of the weld. So simply we can say these metals require high quality welds. They require high quality welds, and they need freedom from atmospheric contamination. Freedom of atmospheric contamination. So the atmosphere simply can affect their properties. Because of this, then the reactive metals need high quality welding. So this is simply by using gas tungsten arc welding, we can weld the reactive metals. So why they need this tungsten arc welding process? So these reactive metals, even small amounts of oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen react with these metals, causes a loss of ductility and corrosion resistance. So, by the way, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen are the enemies of welding. It's important to shield the welding areas from what? From nitrogen, from oxygen, from hydrogen. So, but in this welding, when we are welding the reactive metals, the small amounts of these elements can affect the ductility and corrosion resistance of the, or simply they can affect what? They can affect the welding. They can affect the products of the welding or the joint, the quality of the joint. Gas tungsten arc welding is preferred for welding these metals because it provides the best protection from contamination. Because of this protection, because of the inert gas simply can protect fully from what? From the air contamination. This is the preferable process for welding reactive materials and also non-ferrous alloys. So gas tungsten arc welding also ideally suitable for welding aluminum. So as we know, aluminum is the we can say it is the commercial types of metals, especially in construction area, in production area. This because of different properties of the aluminum. As you know, aluminum is the on the surface of the aluminum there is the hard material we call the oxide scale or oxide film, which is difficult to broken by other welding process. So simply this gas tungsten arc welding can weld by using AC power source, and so we call ideally it is the aluminum welding, or we call this as gas tungsten arc welding, is also ideally suitable for welding aluminum. This is because of aluminum has high thermal conductivity, but aluminum is what? It is high thermal conductivity. When you say it is high thermal conductivity, and gas tungsten arc welding is highly concentrated arc. The arc in the gas tungsten arc welding is limited to the welding area or the edge to be melted and allows for more control of the heat. The heat is controlled, heat input is controlled to the welding area. Also, aluminum contains oxide film, as we already discussed. On the surface of the aluminum metal, there is the material we call oxide film or oxide scale, which is difficult, or the hard material on surface of the metal on the aluminum, and which must be removed before what? Before welding. It must be removed before welding. Gas tungsten arc welding provides a cleaning action. It can provide the process in this welding process, aluminum welding process. It's difficult to weld by using shielded metal arc welding, by using gas tungsten arc welding, because of the cleaning action is not as this gas tungsten arc welding process. So this welding process is best suitable for welding aluminum. So as you see from this figure, here there is a what the cleaned aluminum to look like. Is a aluminum. This is the oxide scale. Oxide scale. Is the oxide scale on the surface of what? On the surface of the metal, the aluminum metal. And so this area is cleaned area. This area is a cleaned area. Cleaned area. The black area is the surface of the aluminum, which is covered by what? Oxide scale. This white area is the cleaned area. It must be cleaned before welding. Always, it's important to clean the joint area before applying the welding. And when we are using gas tungsten arc welding, this gas tungsten arc welding has what? A self-cleaning property, or the self-cleaning action. So this figure shows what? The clean gas tungsten arc welding, aluminum weld in aluminum welding process. This is the material, the most reactive material, what you are called the titanium. So simply gas tungsten arc welding often welds the reactive metals such as titanium. So gas tungsten arc welding is well suitable for welding thin sheets of all weldable materials because it can be controlled at a very low amperage. So this especially for welding thin metals, it's important to select gas tungsten arc welding. So gas tungsten arc welding is the most suitable for welding what? Very thin metals. Because of what? It's simply, it can controlled with this very low amperage. And so, however, gas tungsten arc welding should not be used for the welding metal with very low melting points, like the zinc-based alloys. So, because of what? It's difficult to because the high temperature of the arc welding, the arc mix, is difficult to control the welding paddle. So these are if the base metal is like this very low melting point material, it's important to change the process. Like we can use even soldering. We can use soldering. We can use the braze welding, but this arc is only for welding the average melting point. Is difficult to weld the lowest welding point by using gas tungsten arc welding. So gas tungsten arc welding is not commonly used for welding carbon steel. Why? It's not commonly used for welding carbon steel because of what? There are other welding processes which are low in cost process, because it is a costly process and also it's a complex and need high skilled manpower that increases the cost of their products, because it's not preferable for it can weld any, as we already discussed, it can weld any types of metal, any weldable materials, any weldable metals, but it's important to compare with what their costs. However, it can be used for thin sheets